Okay, we are live at Suzilla.
Hi, it's Suzie and Matt.
Hey,
Welcome. Go ahead.
we're in Wenatchee.
We are Suzie Health Solutions. We're here saying good morning and happy Thursday to you all.
Okay.
So, what's the topic for the day? We talked about it a little bit in the car, but we really couldn't pin anything down. Usually, you've got an idea, but so I'll let you start.
Well, I'm going to pull something out of my back pocket, and I've affectionately labeled this as Howdy Partner.
Howdy Partner.
Well, it's one of those things. It's we make dozens of selections about people.
Okay.
Every day.
Okay.
Whether for us in business is, hey, who are we going to hire? Who's going to represent us downline?
Right.
Also, who are we going to purchase things from?
Right.
So that we can do our job in an effective manner.
Right.
As consumers, we do the same thing. It's like, hey, what grocery store do we go to?
Mm-hmm.
So it's looking at how do you pick those relationships.
And what influences you, and what you need to what's the thing with the thing and the thing and the thing.
Well, yeah, it's how do you make these selections easier? What are you looking for, and get some rewarding? Because honestly, I think a lot of people will just put it on kind of cruise control with their exhaustion, and they instead of picking a great dynamic relationship, they'll just kind of McDonald's it through.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
They want something that's cookie cutter.
Cookie cutter that's familiar, that there won't be a surprise.
Well, it's not the familiar won't be a surprise.
Okay.
And they're surprised when they get a bad reaction from it.
Well, that's when you said McDonald's, I was thinking you want something familiar.
This is the McDonald's that you go in and you chew on the burger and you realize it tastes like cardboard. It's not satisfying.
No, it rarely is.
It's not enriching. It might do the trick for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But it ain't gonna do the thing longer than 30 seconds.
Okay.
So that's why we're kind of taking a look, because it was one of the questions that was asked in one of our mastermind groups. How do you, what do you look for someone that you're hiring?
What do you look for in someone you're hiring? Mm-hmm. Well, reliability, similar values, flexibility, kindness, willingness to learn and listen, stuff like that.
Well, it's.
But I'm weird.
Well, you're not weird. Those are really good things. However, what sets you apart when you look to hire someone?
What sets me apart?
Yeah, what sets you? What if you?
Okay. So if okay, because no, I get it. What makes me worth working for? What do I bring to the table?
You added. You gave a very. I'm looking for reliability. I'm looking for someone dependable. I'm looking for the expected. You gave the McDonald's response for someone that hires.
Okay, as you said, well, what do I look for in someone to hire?
What do you, Suzie,
yes,
look for when you want to hire someone? What's specific things that sets your when you talk to someone, when you do that interview process that you want to bring onto your team?
Okay, so like first impression level stuff.
Not just first impression. You could go through the process multiple times.
Well, yeah, I've personally been on hiring boards before.
Yeah.
Things, so personality traits, that kind of thing. Like do they make eye contact? Are they paying attention to you? Are they actively listening and responding to your questions? Things like that.
Okay, you're fishing for.
I am very confused. I'm not 100% clear on what you're asking for. So you're gonna have to.
I will give it a good.
You have to lead me a little.
Well, I look for a couple very specific things.
Okay.
One is honesty.
Okay.
If someone is lying to me, I'm not going to question it. I'm going to see how it plays out.
Okay. You'll see if they give themselves enough rope, as it were.
Everyone has their own rope.
Yeah.
A good example is our landlord.
Yes.
He decided to put up he decided to have a political sign in front of our building.
Now there's a couple of different ways we can address what you just said, but that's a whole other conversation. We'll get to that.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that, but this is a good one.
There's a political sign in front of our building
because he acted like he didn't know about it,
right?
And that someone else did it,
right?
Cool. We're now about almost 4 weeks from when our partner first confronted him, and 2 weeks from when we confronted him about it. The sign is still there.
Right. So either he doesn't care, did it himself, or is all on board with the candidate.
Yeah.
And
So his response to me of the being concerned about it, concerned about me losing business over it, was a lie. After two weeks from me doing the, hey, that needs to go, and it's still there.
So you felt that he was lying, that he was concerned about us.
Yeah, that's a really good example, and it's why the longer it goes, the less likely I'm ever going to refer anything to him, because the last thing. Honesty is a big thing for me.
True.
That's one of those things. It's like, yeah, I've literally had people, when I was doing bids, I literally had the competitor's bid in my hand and I left it on the desk. Okay. Instead of taking it. Okay. I'm that honest. Honesty is huge for me. It's huge for our industry. Mm-hmm. And so to have someone, compromise, it's that trait is massive. Yeah. It's massive for someone above me that's providing goods and service. It's likewise, it's below as an employee. Honesty is an incredibly important trait. Mm-hmm. And you've sought to be the most honest person I've ever met in my life. Yeah. And you've taught me to do the same. Mm-hmm. Now, I know I have not achieved 100% honesty, but I'm working very hard at not only being honest with other people, but with myself as well. Well, it's one of those things that honesty allows you this brings a second good point, is it's numbers and matrix. When you look at your business on how it's doing and measure it, if you have those in place and you look at something honestly, you can start to make pivots off of it. That's true. If you're not lying to yourself about your numbers. Yeah, and that's one of those very important things, because we had a business owner this last week do oh my gosh, I'm thousands of dollars back for this time of the month. Mm-hmm. And it's like that's a hard one, because sometimes you pivot, sometimes you make adjustments. Mm-hmm. This is a tough time for small businesses that set prices. Yeah, it is. If you're, I'd say, in a small retail or something like that, because of supply chain shortages, inflation, a lot of different little factors. Mm-hmm. And so that's where you need to stop and evaluate and see what your next step would be. You probably need to be evaluating where you're at about every 2 weeks. Yeah. When things are so volatile. When things are rapidly changing, you need to measure more. Okay. I know that I had a conversation with another business owner that they were doing oh my gosh, I need a P&L. And I was like, okay, let's see where we're at. P&L being a profit and loss statement. That is something that is incredibly important when you run your business. Mm-hmm. I can't stress that enough. Being able to have a measurement and look at it, it's like, okay, do I've got enough money coming in to do more? Do I got enough bandwidth to do more?
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to focus and go to a more, delivery friendly model?
There you go.
So there's a lot of things to that. So yeah, honesty is probably one of my top ones.
Probably.
The next one has to be compassion.
Okay. So what we're digging into is actual human traits.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, deep personality traits versus behaviors.
Yeah. Well, you can look at behaviors as measurements for those traits.
Okay, I can see what you're saying there. But again, ultimately what you're looking for is traits.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking for personality traits and that influence or inform those behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And the behaviors can show you if those traits are there.
It's not can show.
Will show.
It's will show. And because those are the traits I'm looking for, and when they're displaying those,
Mm-hmm.
that's who I want around me.
Okay. So compassion.
Compassion's number 2.
Right. The ability to, understand and empathize and care about your fellow human.
It's not just fellow human.
Fellow person, fellow existence, fellow.
Compassion's one of those squishy feely things.
It is a squishy feely thing.
It allows a person to basically plug in their emotions and their thoughts and concerns towards others around them. And I use others as a big term.
Yeah.
Because that also can be displayed with animals.
Well, also could be displayed in the community sense.
It could be displayed in communities, your socials, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, one thing I think I'm seeing here is you mentioned squishy emotion thing. Mm-hmm. When you're in a hiring board and you're looking at people to hire, especially if you're around with other people who are involved in the hiring process, the squishy feely thing is never number one on the list of things to look for from a corporate standpoint. And so your direction is rarely focused in the squishy feely stuff. But that's where maybe some of the hirings are failing.
I would rather have someone that is not the greatest salesperson, but is one of the greatest team players. You can't get that way without compassion. Ever.
You can be one of those, crush it, Gordon Gekko kind of sales guys, but man, that character was a psychopath.
It's toxic.
It is, and it saps the energy out of everybody around them, and because that person is doing all the sapping, they're getting all the sales because nobody else has got the energy to do the sales. Yeah. So it's definitely not a team situation. You want, like you said, somebody who maybe isn't maybe the most awesome salesperson, but they're supporting everyone around them by their existence and their compassion.
Well,
and sales can be taught.
Yes, sales can be taught. It's secondary. Strangely, that method, I've seen it time and time again. With the insurance world, it's the first person who mentions you want to quote loses.
Oh, okay.
It's old school, but it's not old school.
Okay.
So I first became aware of it during when I was doing marketing distribution, and then again with the Big Kahuna, which is a sales movie. Because what had happened was the young kid came in. They hitched all their things to a big event, which is very common in the sales world.
It is.
And the two old dogs had to get the sale, or lose their company. And the kid ended up talking with the person that the whole meeting was about,
Mm-hmm.
and having a conversation. Talked about everything but their product.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, the kid had the appointment to come back and talk to the person.
He built the relationship first.
He built the relationship.
So a candidate should be able to build relationships.
Well, you get that with compassion.
Right. It all ties together.
Mm-hmm.
Being a good human being ties together.
Yeah, and that was one of the traits we've talked about time and time again. So it's like compassion. So,
Mm-hmm.
so does someone have compassion, or is the first instinct they have is we're going to make a lot of money?
Right. And that gives you an idea of where you are with that human being.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's an interesting question. A lot of folks are still very focused on, making $1 million, making that big nut.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, the people who are gazillionaires, on average, are these hard selling, low compassion kind of guys. So,
okay,
what does that tell our compassionate people?
It is a select few that are that way.
And it is a few.
And I will say a select few that are that way.
Okay.
And there were times when they're compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to things. One of the most genius setups we were ever made aware of was Matthew Hahn.
Okay, yeah, I love Matthew Hahn. He's one of my favorite people in the industry.
And
hi, Matthew. Hope you're listening.
And the what made his genius was that he figured out, okay, how much do I need to bring in to make my household whole?
Mm-hmm. How do I keep my lights on?
How do I keep my lights on? And then he started paring back to maximize his time spent at home.
Okay. And that's
really,
that's an awesome model.
And that is the compassion for his family
and for himself.
And it's like, yeah, he could be, working 80 hours a week, absolutely miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually he's going to break down.
Well, and then during those 80 hours a week, his family is suffering because they don't have him around.
Yes.
And he will grow old, and he will grow cold, and he might die with $20 million in the bank, but he won't be happy.
That is why that compassion is important. Mm-hmm. He's still a sales leader.
Oh yeah.
He still treats his customers awesome.
Oh yeah.
Because he's got more time to treat his customers awesome,
mm-hmm.
but he's also got time to treat his family awesome.
And he does. He's quite the family man. And that's one of the things that you and I, as our little business, have also been working on.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure that we give ourselves time. We're in a heavy growth spurt right now.
We've been growing consistently the last 4 years about at least 30%.
Okay, again, we're in a heavy growth spurt. We're in a big growth period. Yeah. But we're also doing our best to make time for ourselves and our family.
Mm-hmm. But most people don't understand, because 30% is a big chunk.
It is.
It's a
very
big
large
chunk.
Increase
last
from a
year,
business standpoint.
For 2021, the financial industry grew on average about 20%.
And then we exceeded that by another 10%.
No. That was the year we doubled.
Oh, that was the year we went to 50%. We crushed it that year. It was a good year.
Yeah, and that's something that's really important to understand. If you're looking around and you are doing everything you can, and everyone in that industry is crushing it, and you're not, brings us to the next trait I look for.
And that would be
creativity.
All right. Because creativity is being able to, and I hate to use the cliche, but thinking outside the box, among other things.
I am completely beyond the box at this point. Alexa, mute. And the reason
Oh,
why
you've created your own box.
the reason why I say that is there's been too many times where we've looked at each other and done the, why isn't this a thing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when we have, compared to, I mean, we've been at this for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And we have streamlined and automated and tweaked and finessed to the point where we are way different than a lot of insurance companies, insurance agencies you walk into, because we had to. We could have gone with the standard model where you do this, that, and the other thing, and you pick up the phone and and you like, okay, your job is to call everybody in the phone book.
Slap phones.
Yeah, but we didn't go that route ever. That was never our focus. We would pick up the phone if we needed to contact somebody, but even that's been automated to a degree out.
Yeah.
Because it's just the two of us and we're that busy. We need the extra automation help. I don't know. I mean, we definitely do things in a different way. I got to give credit to Matt for the vast majority of these advances. I think if you were an agent that started 20 years before we did, you would walk in here and be completely flummoxed.
Yeah. I had a conversation with a LinkedIn guy. He was trying to pitch me Legal Shield again.
Bless their little hearts.
Bless their little hearts. And it's like, oh yeah, I got out of the insurance industry in '98, and it's been wonderful for me. And Suzie, this is like, look, the industry that we're in has moved light years in the decade that I've been in.
And we've been ahead of that edge.
I got in, social media was just sort of a thing. There were paper applications.
Yeah. I hate paper applications. They still exist, by the way.
There were the Rolodex.
Yeah.
Remember the Rolodex?
Oh, yeah.
And if you are, the big massive file cabinets,
banks of them,
and if you got in the business, Yellow Pages.
Yeah.
If you got fax machines, fax machines were a struggle.
Oh yeah. And a lot of insurance companies still have fax machine. Oh, just fax us your application. No.
I mean,
I'm sorry. I'm in the 21st century. When do you live?
Feudal Japan.
There you go.
Because, the fax machine has been around since feudal Japan.
Like 1893 or something.
Yes, the age of the samurai. Yeah. A samurai could have literally, if the lines existed, could have faxed a memo to Lincoln saying, "Don't go to the theater that night."
I know
and that is
when
just,
you think of it, it's so hard to get your head around.
And it is just so ridiculous that people rely on that, and it really shows that clingy nature.
Okay, you want clingy nature? Doctors, it's the fact that most doctors still have pagers. Although that is starting to phase out in favor of cell phones. Yeah,
and that's really, really important. It's like, because creativity will move you from that clinginess.
Yeah.
It will. You look at the menu, and it's like, what needs to be added or what needs to be subtracted?
You don't need a menu that is 17 pages long.
You don't need one that's 17 years old.
No, it's good to stay fresh.
And that's really important. And at the same time, you don't need to do it. In my favorite model for this was when Safeway, when you were still working at Safeway, they were doing a big remodel.
Yeah.
And they sent out pre-printed chalkboards. I remember this very specific for the produce.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a great example because it's marketing.
It is.
because these pre-printed ones, it's like, yeah, it looks like a chalkboard. It's done with paint, but it was to inspire the image of freshness.
That we just put this up ourselves.
That we just did this, that we're that old school produce company that we actually got a couple here in Wenatchee.
We do, with our own real live chalkboards.
With our real live chalkboards. And most of them, I think they're using whiteboards now. I can't remember what Sandy was using.
She's got a blackboard.
Okay. But that's a really important. You can't fake that. You can't.
They tried.
They try, but if someone's more than walking around in a half zombie state, recognize, oh yeah, that's just a sign. That's BS. Yeah. They're lying to me.
However, most of the people who are shopping in the grocery store are walking around in a half zombie state. A lot of autopilot going on in there, and that's why they're trying to get into your little pea brain to make you impulse shop.
Well, that gets into that whole lizard, oh, that's a chalkboard. That means it's written today.
Yeah, it's fresh.
And it's
a fresh idea.
We actually pay attention to buzzwords a lot.
Oh, I'm very entertained by buzzwords.
One of my favorite ones, and it hasn't gone away. It won't go away anytime soon. Freedom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's if someone starts yammering about freedom, usually they're trying to sell you something.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's unfortunately when a word becomes a buzzword, it loses its meaning. It loses its
sincerity.
There you go. That's what I was looking for. It's not genuine anymore. It's like flags that have staff.
So yeah, that's one of those things to look for. I look for is creativity. How is someone creative? Are they popping the frozen meal? When they go home, thawing it out. Are they going to the same coffee stand day in, day out? Do they travel? Are they involved in art?
Now, don't always equate art with creativity. Many artists are creative. Many creative people are not artists. Are they just interested in art?
Well, no. You can tell someone that's into art, by looking and talking and doing about what's your favorite writer. Because being creative, part of that creative process is learning.
True. And being open to learning.
So someone that is creative and curious and poking and prodding with things are going to have some of those traits. They're going to be able to find out if, hey, is your process genuine? Or is there a flaw in there?
Oh.
They're going to come across and say, oh, hey, this product we've been doing for years. Why isn't there a template to provide someone with a quick and easy, hey, this is how it works?
That's a good question. And maybe they're the one that can create that because they're curious. And they think. And they're thinking ahead, and they're thinking laterally, and they're not just stuck on the path.
Correct, because if you're just there punching a clock and doing that cog routine of a robot, you're not really moving the company forward.
Now, a lot of whether or not you're just punching the clock and doing the cog depends on how the company treats you. Because more than once when you were working for a company, you would get creative. You would create great ideas, and they would basically shut you down because they weren't interested in that.
No, they were interested in the appearance of improvement.
Correct, but they weren't actually interested in making improvements. So that's when, as the applicant or potential employee or active employee, needs to assess what the employer's doing.
Mm-hmm.
See, there it goes both ways.
So yeah, it's one of it's all all these decisions walking around. You need to be making those.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite signs was the people who feel that tattoos and colored hair are unprofessional are dying out.
I saw retiring, but yeah, and and eventually they will. I mean, they're going to retire. They're not going to be the bosses anymore. And then those of us with colored hair and tattoos, well, currently we are in charge, but that's a whole other conversation.
Mm-hmm.
They will begin to be the chief in charges. Now, we have also discovered that particular generation has not wanted to give up power.
Oh, no.
They have been fighting tooth and nail to retain it. And that is another podcast.
That is an entirely different podcast.
It is.
So, hey, everyone, have a great week. And think about on how you interact, how you look at people to provide you services, have them provide you services,
yes,
who you hire,
yes,
who you work for.
Yes. Look at it all.
Look at it all.
Does it fit are you, is your person compassionate? Are they honest? Are they creative? Do they fit your style? Do they fit you? And not just employees, but friends too.
Yeah. So, hey, everyone, have a great week, and we will talk to you next Thursday.
Bye.